All right, guys, we have official word. Sam, FTX, Alameda, they have filed officially for bankruptcy. We got a thread from Sam on that I'm going to cover in this video. I'm also going to talk about my theory as to what happened, what caused this whole thing, and I'm talking about from the very beginning because I know we've touched on it a little bit in regards to FTT and that whole fiasco, but there's more pieces of the puzzle that have come to light, and I want to talk about those and, again, put my 2 cents in as to what happened because I think I have a pretty good idea of what happened. Again, not official word from FTX or Sam or anyone, but just sort of what I've gathered through sources. But first, let's go ahead and dive into Sam's thread. There's some parts that are a little confusing and I would say a little off-putting because I feel like they're I'll just read it and let you guys see what I'm talking about. So, hi all. Today I filed FTX, FTX US, and Alameda for voluntary Chapter 11 proceedings in the US. So, Chapter 11 basically means the business doesn't plan to go on a payment plan or try to like repay their debts. They're just going to divvy up what they have and call it quits. So that's just an FYI. I'm really sorry again that we ended up here. Hopefully things can find a way to recover. Hopefully this can bring some amount of transparency, trust, and governance to them. That's one piece that I don't know what he's trying to say here. Like transparency, trust, governance. Like, what are you talking about, dude? You threw all of that out the window. Like, what is this referring to? Ultimately, hopefully, it can be better for customers. This doesn't necessarily have to mean the end for the companies or their ability to provide value and funds to their customers chiefly, and can be consistent with other routes. Ultimately, I'm optimistic that Mr. Ray and others can provide whatever is best. So Mr. Ray, I believe, is the attorney he hired for the bankruptcy. But the top part of this, it doesn't mean it's the end for these companies. Like, I'm pretty sure this is the end for these companies. I highly doubt FTX is going to continue operations. Like, the employees were hit super hard with this as well, and we're going to cover more on that because we got some memos and insider info from the employees. But again, this just seems like a ridiculous statement to make that they can continue on providing value. Like, first of all, what value? Your balance sheet went negative. There's been no value. You've destroyed value. So what are you talking about value? It's just that's just super irritating to me. Like, I don't know. It just comes off weird. I'm going to work on giving clarity on where things are in terms of user recovery ASAP. I'm piecing together all of the details, but I was shocked to see things unravel the way they did earlier this week. I will soon write up a more complete post on a play-by-play, but I wanted to make sure that I got it right when I do. So I don't know if he's talking about play-by-play as to what's going to happen or if he's going to give a play-by-play as to what happened. We'll find out more on that, obviously, as he decides to tell us. And if it is, something that happened in the past, I'm curious to see how it compares to my theory as to what happened. So here's what I believe happened based on all the information that I dug through. It sounds like Alameda was hit super hard when Luna went under, just like 3AC, just like everybody else. And it put, from what I understand, a near $5 billion hole in their balance sheet. Now, again, at that time, FTX already owned Alameda. And instead of Sam and FTX cutting off Alameda and just letting them fall, what they decided to do was throw customer funds at that hole in order to patch it. And it sounds like they were already using customer funds before that to patch holes. And it sounds like what really created this whole entire mess was that they were sending customer funds to Alameda, who was then depositing those funds into UST and in the Luna ecosystem, trying to earn interest. And then as people were withdrawing from the exchange, they would just move that UST back, give the customers their money back. The customers would have no idea it was ever in the Terra ecosystem. And then FTX and Alameda would get to pocket the interest earned because don't forget, Anchor was paying loads of interest. So I think that is what was going on like from the beginning. And then again, they definitely seem to have used customer funds. Once Alameda had that hole, once Luna went under, they sent customer funds over to try to patch that hole. On top of it, and this is where everyone was so confused because remember back, FTX was bailing everybody out or trying to bail a bunch of projects out. They were reviewing projects and giving them revolving credit lines and things like that. Turns out that also was with customer funds. That's where they were getting all this money, is they were decided to just take the leash off, and just at that point they had opened Pandora's box with customer funds. They were using them for revolving credit lines. They were purchasing stocks with them, from my understanding. Like Robinhood stock was a big stock holding that they had, as well as investing them into crypto and other speculative tokens and things like that, which is just mind-blowing to me. Again, it sounds like that door was cracked open with the whole Luna thing. They got a feel for customer funds, and they were like, you know what? We've already opened the door. Let's just go all in on this. And that's exactly what they did, which is how I think this entire massive hole that they have came to even be. And so anyways, you have them using customer funds, and they were able to stay afloat for a little bit doing that. But again, their lifeline was FTT. FTT was their backstop. And as soon as CZ put that tweet out and wrecked the FTT price, that sent the whole house of cards tumbling, because that was sort of the last nail in the coffin. And there was all this fragility behind the scenes that we didn't even know about. And again, it was all being held up by a thread that was FTT. And so again, I think that when CZ put out his tweet, wrecked the price of FTT, that was the final nail in the coffin, and it sent the whole thing tumbling down, and that landed us to where we are now, which is why I think Binance pulled out, because again, not only was there a hole in their balance sheet that was massive, but there was also potentially and likely illegal activity going on with customer funds that was not supposed to be going on. Now, today, CZ also tweeted out, he says, he warns companies could fail in the coming weeks following the FTT troubles, which, yes, guys, if you're not, I would recommend self-custodying your tokens for the time being, because we don't know who's going to be affected by this yet. It usually takes a couple weeks to find out what all contagion is out there, because companies will hide this information until they can no longer hide it anymore. And again, usually that only takes a couple weeks. So definitely a good idea, I think, to self-custody your tokens for the time being, especially if you have it in anything that's earning you interest on your crypto. The reason it's earning you interest is because they're lending it out, so you don't want to be exposed to that right now. We actually already have one victim that has fallen under. It was pretty expected, and that is BlockFi. They sent out a message to their customers, and it says, "We are shocked and dismayed by the news regarding FTX and Alameda. We, like the rest of the world, found out about this situation through Twitter. Given the lack of clarity on the status of FTX.com, FTX US, and Alameda, we are not able to operate business as usual. Our priority has been, and will continue to be, to protect our clients and their interests. Until there is further clarity, we are limiting platform activity, including pausing client withdrawals as allowed under our terms. We will have more specifics as soon as possible. We request that clients not deposit into BlockFi wallet or interest accounts at this time. We intend to communicate as frequently as possible going forward, but anticipate that this will be less frequent than what our clients and stakeholders are used to." So, in short, what happened here is they got, I think it was close to a $500 million revolving credit line from FTX. And now that FTX isn't a thing, neither is that credit line. So that went away, and that pretty much put BlockFi under, because if you remember back, they got hit really hard with Luna. That was disclosed. We knew that. They went to were approached or went to FTX, and they ended up getting this credit line, which is what was keeping them afloat. But again, without that, they can't stay afloat. So BlockFi is definitely one that is being hit, and yeah, I mean, the hole in the balance sheet is anticipated to be even bigger than we thought. Here is a snippet from the bankruptcy filing that FTX submitted, and they anticipate their assets to be somewhere between 10 and 50 billion, and their liabilities to be somewhere between 10 and 50 billion. And you're probably sitting there wondering, like, okay, well, that equates out, right? Well, actually, this is more than most people thought, and now people are predicting that the hole is actually somewhere around 10 to 12 billion instead of 8 billion. So that is that's a big difference from what we initially thought. I mean, we're talking 10 to 12 billion. That's huge, even in the TradFi world. This is no longer like a secluded crypto event. This is something that affects the entire financial industry, like, in a big way. And we touched on that a little bit in the last video. I mean, you're talking about sponsorships, you're talking about everyday people like Tom Brady who just got into crypto. There's a lot of people that will be affected by this in some sort of way. It really is like a Lehman Brother type situation in the crypto realm that is affecting TradFi in a very similar way. They also estimate their creditors to be more than 100,000. Now, it is important to note that if you deposited any money to FTX, I think technically you're considered a creditor, and so you would account under this. So that includes customers as well. Now, after we got this news, it just turned into absolute craziness on crypto Twitter. Like, there was like big crypto Twitter accounts that were guys dealing with a lot of money that really started panicking. And I get it, right? Like, your life savings, your big trading account, your everything. If it was on FTX, that is a heavy hit, and that's rough. I would be panicking too. However, I do believe that some people may have crossed some pretty questionable ethical lines here. One of which is Algod Trading. He tweeted out yesterday, "If anyone helps me KYC on FTX, I'm giving them 100K. Then he replied, the next tweet in the thread, "I already submitted everything. I need someone from FTX to process it." Then we get a second or a third tweet, "I'm KYC'd, no DMs needed anymore." So if you're wondering, like, okay, well, he wasn't KYC'd on FTX, which if you weren't if you're not KYC'd, it's going to be really hard to get your funds back, because without KYC, they don't know who legally is obligated to get paid out. So that's why if you're using another exchange right now that you're not KYC'd on, you should KYC. Which, for those of you who don't know, KYC is know your customer. That's when you submit like your ID and stuff like that, and they verify your identity. Okay. So what? He paid a guy at FTX to get him verified so that he can get on the bankruptcy list. Well, not exactly. So what happened after this, we get a tweet from Flood, who Flood is a big-time trader in the space. He's an OG in the space. He says, "Just a heads up, if you're doing this or thinking of doing this, you're committing financial crimes. Good luck." And he quote tweets a thread that shows Algod Trading withdrawing all of his money from FTX, claiming that he lives in the Bahamas. Now, the Bahamas was the only place that you could withdraw outside of FTX US before they halted withdrawals, your money. And the reason for that was because of local laws in the Bahamas. So basically, Algod, most people believe he doesn't live in the Bahamas. It's very likely that he does not live in Bahamas, but he paid someone at FTX to say that he does, to validate his account, and submit the KYC request. And then he just started to pull all of his money out, which this is where things get pretty gray, guys, because when a company is in default, this is no longer, it's not like you're getting one over on FTX by withdrawing this money, because FTX is done. They have no money. This money that you're taking is out of the other holder or other depositors' pockets. So the other customers, the other traders who are using it, who can't get their money out, you're basically taking away from the pie and reducing the amount that they're going to get paid out by doing this. So I know a lot of people were defending, saying, "Oh, it's his money. He should have, he should be entitled to get it." Look, I understand that, but at this point, only a portion of it is technically his money. It's not all his money, because all of his money, parts of his money, were lost, just like everyone else who was trading on FTX and holding money there. So, you only leave mom and pop holding the bag in this situation. And so I think, again, that's sort of an ethical line that got crossed there. And I sort of had an issue with, because again, yeah, it's just not, you're not doing, I mean, you're jumping the line. You're probably committing a crime by saying you live there and you don't live there. Now, I don't know what country he's from. But then even after that, he was trying to buy people's accounts for pennies on the dollar. He was offering to buy people's accounts for 10 cents on the dollar. So he was only giving them 10% back in exchange for their account balance on FTX. Now, why would he do this? Well, probably because that same person he paid $100,000, they struck a deal to start withdrawing money from those accounts, from Algod's accounts, the same way. So that is pretty messed up in my eyes as well. And then they would just split the 90%, I guess, is how that was going to work. Again, crossing some ethical lines there, very questionable, and there was quite a bit of people that were trying to pursue similar avenues. So, again, sad to see. Now, getting to FTX's employees, these people I don't think are to blame. There was only a handful of people that even knew about what was going on and the hole in the balance sheet, and I think most of which was the people at Alameda, just because they were looking at the numbers every day, so they knew. But for the most part, the just general employees were using FTX as their bank and as their retirement fund, which is just heartbreaking to hear, because now they have no checking account with their money because FTX was basically their checking account. They also have no retirement because they were getting stock options from FTX and just keeping the money on FTX is what it sounds like for the most part. The reason we know this is because Autism Capital, which is an account on Twitter that a lot of people go to with anonymous information. However, Autism Capital does vet the source, so I do believe that this is reliable. And if you guys are curious and want to read the whole thing, it's from an FTX employee stating their feelings on the situation and just how they're affected. And I would, again, if you're curious, I'll link it down below so that way you guys can check it out. But yeah, heartbreaking. And what might be the craziest thing out of all of this is that Washington is going to proceed with Sam's crypto bill. So as we know, Sam was working on a crypto bill with most regulators in the space, and even after the collapse, they're deciding to push it through. The reason I think they're doing this is because they know that they are in the hot seat right now, because this is an event that is getting a lot of attention, and it looks like they dropped the ball. And I think they're feeling the heat from this, and so they just want to get some sort of regulation passed ASAP. So it looks like they are taking action, but it is pretty mind-boggling. I haven't read the bill, and I know it was very controversial. There was a lot of people that had a lot of problems with the bill and believed it threatened DeFi in a big way. I'm not an expert on it. I didn't read it, so I'm not sure. If you guys did or you know more about that, definitely share down in the comments section, because I'd like to hear more about it. And I obviously need to read it myself, especially now that it's going through. But I just thought that was pretty wild to see. But anyways, guys, if you were caught in this whole fiasco, my heart goes out to you. I really wish you the best going forward. And I know that doesn't mean much to you right now, but seriously, keep your head up, guys. Do not blame yourselves. No one saw this coming. This is just a complete black swan that, again, nobody could predict. It's just totally wild. And again, if you were affected by this, keep your head up. Things will get better. On a bit of a different note, if you were curious as to what FTX was invested in, and you just wanted to know more about their investments, what things could be affected, Gainsey did post a chart that lists all of their investments on both the FTX and Alameda side, and it looks pretty accurate. So, if you guys want to see this, I'll link it down below as well. You can check that out. Now, Alameda was also a market maker for a lot of tokens, so liquidity has dried up quite a bit on a lot of tokens, which means that you'll probably see some high volatility in the next few weeks, just because as liquidity slows, the price tends to move faster because spreads between the prices blow out. So just as an FYI, we'll probably see quite a bit of turbulence going forward just on that aspect alone. Then when you factor everything else in, we'll probably see some craziness going on in the crypto, I'd imagine, for the next few months, really. Anyhow, guys, I did get a new mic. I don't know if you noticed that. I hope it sounds better. I know the last mic that I had, the plosives were pretty bad. It was super sensitive. It had a lot of gain that I tried to tone down. I was even editing out quite a bit of gain. So went ahead, bit the bullet, got a new mic. I'll probably be fine-tuning it over the next few videos, so you might hear it change a little bit, but I hope it does sound better for you guys. Outside of that, guys, if this is your first time to the channel and you haven't already, please like and subscribe. With that being said, I will keep you guys updated as more stuff comes out. See you next time.